Hi, I'm Brad with That Damn Nerd, and on this week's episode, we're going to dive into the TP-Link Omada management system for networking. It's a prosumer setup for professionals and for consumers, and we're going to talk about the benefits, some of the drawbacks, and how it compares to Ubiquity's unified solution. So stick around. It's going to be a great episode. So what is TP-Link's Omada? Well, Omada is a prosumer or a professional slash consumer grade, enterprise grade solution for networking. It is for managed devices like switches, access points, and routers, and it allows you to control everything via a unified, excuse the pun, unified web control panel or GUI. And you can buy things like routers, you can buy access points. We'll cover some of these things, some switches, all that in a future video. But right now, we're going to talk about some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks of having a managed infrastructure. So obviously, first and foremost, what is the benefit of having a managed infrastructure? Well, you have all of your devices in one place that you can configure, and you can roll settings across multiple devices by one configuration. And it basically, you could trace it all back to where it needs to go via software. So it's what's called SDN, or software defined networking, whereas a regular enterprise grade switch, say like a Cisco, is generally going to be an HDN, or hardware defined networking, where you will go in and logically split each port out into a VLAN or a destination. This is software defined networking, where you have, I didn't realize it was upside down, you have basically a router or a device, in this case, the TP-Link Omada control software, and you will set up your VLANs and all the other stuff that needs to be set up to route things properly with this device. And it will carry down to various switches and things like that. So that is one of the major things for SDN, or software defined networking. Another great benefit of using SDN, or software defined networking, especially with the TP-Link Omada system, is that you can have a device. You plug that device in, you go ahead and set it up how you want to, and then you can actually roll those settings out to a second one that is in the same vicinity or on the same site, or actually across multiple sites, as long as they are adopted within the same infrastructure, the same range, so on and so forth. So you can do that rather easily using the access points and some of the switches. Now, another thing that you can do, and I know that you can do this in Unifi's system, so if you're using one of the routers that the Omada system uses, you can do what's called a site-to-site VPN, which is where you have one of these at one location and one at another location, and they are basically, you can link the two networks cohesively and share data between the two routers over a secure IPsec tunnel between the two locations, and it basically would act as if it's an internal LAN. Now, there's some drawbacks and advantages to that, well beyond what we're going to cover in this video. If you want to know more about like IPsec and things like that, that's way down the road. Something maybe we'll talk about. I have no idea, but you can Google that or go to Wikipedia and get half the information correct, but we're not even going to even glaze over that in this video. Another great feature of the TP-Link Omada system is its ability to scale. So you can start off with something small, say like a 8-port switch, which actually I have in this office. I've got over here behind me, and you can scale up from there. So I actually have a 16-port and an 8-port in this room where I am in my office slash studio slash whatever you want to call it, I have got a 16 port distribution switch on this side of the room, which handles basically my recording stuff, some screens that I have over here, um, another computer that I use over here for production, and then another switch over here which handles this TV, the Roku, this desk, a office phone, a printer, and a bunch of other crap that's over there. So I have it split out into multiple different VLANs in multiple directions, and you can do that with the TP-Link much easier than, say, any other type of software, except for maybe Unify, because they're pretty similar. They act the same way. So we're going to talk about that comparison next. Now, before we jump into the comparison between TP-Link's Omada and Ubiquity's Unify, I want to talk about a couple of the drawbacks, at least that I've noticed or that have been told to me by other people. Now, for TP-Link hardware, not every single piece of TP-Link hardware supports the Omada infrastructure. Some of them do, some of them don't. For example, this gigabit router is designed to work with the TP-Link Omada system. So if you see the Omada logo on it, or you see this gold standard logo for TP-Link Omada, this will work with the TP-Link Omada infrastructure. Anything that doesn't have it, so for example, I've got a 5-port here, does not have the TP-Link Omada anywhere on the box. This does not work with Omada, but it doesn't mean you can't use it in an Omada infrastructure. As a perfect example, I have this in my wife's office, and it works great for that. The only problem with that is that any VLANs that you push out through this switch, you have to manually configure in this switch's web interface and don't get passed through to Omada. However, if you have this anything that's Jetstream, should basically be compatible depending on the age of the Jetstream switch. But again, as always, you want to look for this, where's the camera? This gold standard logo here. There. You want to look for that. And that is going to indicate, yes, by default, this thing supports TP-Link Omada. And finally, much like any other infrastructure you have, all the devices you have in there that you expect to be managed by Omada have to be Omada devices. You cannot take an access point from Aruba Networks or Ubiquity or Cisco and expect it to work in a TP-Link system. That's a given, that's obvious, but if you're a consumer and you don't understand that, you can't just go and buy an access point off the shelf and expect it to work with a proprietary or open sourced management system. That's not really how these things work. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the difference between TP-Link and the Unify solution. So there's actually a lot of similarities between the two, and TP-Link system is actually based off of the Unify OS model and the way that Unify actually works. So they're very, very similar. They run the same core kernel down below, but beneath everything that kind of keeps everything running. Although their software-defined controllers are a little bit different, TP-Link does offer a little bit more in the way of one-to-one natting and advanced features for like security and things like that. However, Unify is starting to get there with a lot of their stuff. Now, the one but the one problem that I have with Ubiquity and their new line of Unify devices is the one-to-one natting. So if you don't know what one-to-one natting is basically you have an external IP address. This is more for like prosumers or professionals. If you have a range of IP addresses and you want to take that range and assign them to specific devices inside your LAN with a TP-Link router, you can do that with absolutely no problem. With a Ubiquity device, you can't do it with a USG or Unify Gateway 3 or 4. You can only do it with an edge router or with a, oh my gosh, the Dream Machine Pro. You can't do it with a regular Dream Machine. And even with the Dream Machine Pro, I don't think it's something native you can do. I think you have to log into the back end terminal console and do it that way, unless they've changed it since then. So another big question that people will ask is price. Which one is more affordable, the Ubiquiti or the TP-Link? Well, realistically, it depends on what you're buying, how you expect it to work, how you're going to configure it, and the longevity that you're looking for. Now, with the TP-Link, originally I was going to put a UniFi system in my home and have everything operate off of that. I was going to do multiple switches, USG, USG 4. I was going to do a USG 4 or a Dream Machine Pro with 2 access points and a handful of smart switches throughout the house to route VLAN traffic and things like that, obviously with PoE and my cameras and all of that. And when I looked at the total price, it was going to run me about $2,000 to put in everything that I wanted to put in. Well, I had a couple of TP-Link switches lying around and a couple of Jetstream switches. And realistically, the only switch that I had to buy out of pocket was this 8-port PoE switch for my office. The 16-port distribution switch that I have in here and the 24-port distribution switch that I have in my living room, both I already had on hand. So that didn't really cost me anything. And they're Jetstream compatible, which means they are TP-Link Omada compatible. And then it was just a matter of buying the access points and getting those set up. Now, yes, you can see this is actually a Wi-Fi 6 access point, which is actually even better. But would I recommend TP-Link over UniFi? Well, for my specific scenario, I didn't want to spend an absolute crap ton of money. And I think all in all, I spent probably about $800 to put in this system in my house. That includes networking and wiring and a bunch of other stuff that I ended up replacing. Now, the router itself was about, I believe it was $100. I'll post something down here with the accurate price or MSRP now. I ended up buying one access point. That's not an access point. I ended up buying, thinking that was going to be enough to cover my 2,300 square foot house, and then quickly went out and bought another one when I realized it wasn't going to be enough. Now, these are PoE also. They do have a power adapter with them, but if you have PoE, if you have a switch that could do PoE, there's no reason to have it plugged in. So realistically, for the price, I would recommend the TP-Link over UniFi. For features, the same. I would recommend the TP-Link over the UniFi, especially if you're looking for advanced security features, one-to-one NATing, things like that. This also has the same rogue DHCP protection that the UniFi system has. So basically, a friend decides to come over and throw a DHCP server on your LAN. This has safeguards in place, or the Omada system has safeguards in place that will actually protect your router and your network from a DHCP spoof attack. So that's another benefit that's in there. We're not going to go over all the benefits, but there are a lot of spot benefits, which are chef's kiss, like just the icing and the cherry on the cake that is the TP-Link Omada system. As always, I will post a link in the description to all of the devices that I have shown, featured, or talked about in this video. If you're interested in the UniFi information or information on UniFi systems, go ahead and put that in the comments down below, and I'll try to get my hands on some of that stuff so that I can make a video on it. If you want to know more about some of the products that I've put in, like I said, I'm going to put links down there. But there'll be affiliate links down below as well. Make sure you use those. It doesn't change your price, but it does give me a little kickback for referring you to it. If you need help setting up the TP-Link UniFi or TP-Link Omada system, I am going to make a little bit more of an in-depth video on how to actually set it up and configure it. We'll do a tutorial on that soon. And then we'll actually be doing a product review on each one of these devices so that you guys get an idea of what they look like, how they interact, and how to program them using either the TP-Link Omada control software or control them manually. So with that being said, make sure that you put your suggestions down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow, and share it with your friends if you learned something. Until next time, I will see you guys in a future video. Bye-bye.